Jiri Prochazka just might be facing his toughest challenge in the UFC other than Alex Pereira. As you guys know, UFC 320 is coming up on October 4th, and this pay-per-view will feature two great title fights for the main event and the co-main event. But for the most interesting fight in the card, the feature fight, the people's main event, my main event will be Jiri Prochazka versus Khalil Rountree. This fight is violence personified. These are two of the most violent strikers in the light heavyweight division. Both fighters are trying to use this win to get back in the title picture. There's no way this fight goes to decision. Someone is getting flatline KO'd. So in this video, we're going to be analyzing and breaking down this matchup, and by the end of the video, hopefully I can tell you guys who I will be picking to win this matchup. So without further ado, let's hop into this breakdown, starting with Jiri Prochazka. Jiri Prochazka has a professional MMA record of 31 wins and 5 losses. He is a big light heavyweight. He's 6'3" with a 80-inch reach, which is so awkward for his opponents to deal with since his arms are so long for his height. Jiri Prochazka, he's a former UFC light heavyweight champion. He also fought in Ryzen, where he was a champion as well. He's known for his unorthodox approach to striking. Jiri Prochazka might be one of the most unorthodox strikers to ever get a belt in the modern UFC era. Jiri Prochazka, he rarely goes the distance in his fights. He has like a 90% finish rate, maybe greater than 90%, and he doesn't really go to decision. Like I said, his style is very unorthodox. If you're like one of those people who are like a MMA purist, when you watch Jiri Prochazka, you're going to see so many holes in his game, but for some reason, he made it to the top of the sport. He became a champ, and those holes haven't really affected him in the UFC except when he was fighting Alex Pereira. So getting into Jiri Prochazka's strengths, Jiri Prochazka has unorthodox striking angles. That kind of goes back to his unorthodox striking, and this keeps his opponents guessing. He has a lot of different attacks as well, spinning elbow attacks, jumping knees, teep kicks, uppercuts. And another strength of Jiri Prochazka is that he has immense power in both hands. He's knocked out every single opponent that he faced in the UFC except for Alex Pereira and Glover Teixeira. For example, Jiri Prochazka is the only person to knock out Volkan Ozdemir on the feet. I feel like that's a very underrated win on Jiri Prochazka's resume. Of course, Daniel Cormier TKO'd Volkan Ozdemir as well, but that was with ground and pound. But Jiri Prochazka, on his UFC debut, knocked out Volkan Ozdemir cold on the feet after striking with him for like 2 rounds. Another strength of Jiri Prochazka is that he has a relentless pace and pressure. He has broken people with his pressure in the past. One fight that comes to mind is, of course, his fight with Alexander Rakic at UFC 300. That was a great performance, and it showed that he's able to take damage, he's able to push through, and in the second round, he broke Alexander Rakic and TKO'd him. That kind of fits with this next strength of Jiri Prochazka, which is that he's very durable and able to recover quickly in wild exchanges. A lot of people think that Jiri Prochazka has this granite chin that he can't be knocked out. And although I kind of agree with that, Jiri Prochazka, he has a really good chin. But I think a big reason that Jiri Prochazka just doesn't get knocked out or TKO'd on paper is because he recovers so quickly. I'm telling you, there's times where he's been out on his feet, but he pops back up and he gets right back in there. His recovery is actually insane. A couple fights that come to mind is when he fought Dominic Reyes. I'm pretty sure he got knocked out by this up kick that Dominic Reyes threw while he was on the ground, and he got knocked out and he just popped right back up, kept going. Or if we talk about his legendary fight with Glover Teixeira, I remember in the 4th round, Glover knocked out Jiri Prochazka in the feet. Jiri was basically knocked out, and that's how we got that moment where Glover Teixeira pulls guard on Jiri Prochazka after rocking him so bad. And Jiri, like I said, he recovered and he ended up winning that fight by submission. Another strength of Jiri Prochazka is that his grappling is underrated. Like I said, he submitted Glover Teixeira, who is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, And he took down Alex Pereira, which is a big accomplishment considering how good Alex Pereira's takedown defense is. Magomed Ankalaev wasn't even able to take down Alex Pereira when they fought, but Jiri Prochazka took down Alex Pereira the first time they had a matchup. And the last strength I want to talk about is that Jiri Prochazka, he has a lot of good intangibles. When I'm talking about intangibles, it's like things about fighters that you can't really teach. You can't really coach a fighter to be athletic. You know, it's like more Jiri Prochazka has these like intangibles that help him win his fights. I came up with a few, like his creativity, his toughness, that warrior mindset, and his athleticism. Those things, you can't teach a fighter that warrior mindset. He just has to have it. He just has to be born with it. And Jiri Prochazka, he just has that mindset to just never give up in his fights. He'll rather be knocked out while going for the kill than just be outclassed going to a decision. Now, there are a few weaknesses that Jiri Prochazka has. The first one that comes to mind is definitely in his defense. He has some defensive holes. He keeps his hands low, and that often leaves his chin exposed. A fast twitch striker like Khalil Rountree could definitely catch him and knock him out. Another weakness that we see is that Jiri takes too much damage relying on his durability. I'm pretty sure Jiri has gotten rocked in every single one of his fights in the UFC. Like I said, he got rocked against Dominic Reyes. He got rocked against Alex Pereira. He got rocked against Glover Teixeira. He got rocked against Alexander Rakic. Like, Jiri Prochazka, he really relies on his chin to win his fights. And that's a good thing because he does win a lot in the UFC. But that type of fighting style, it kind of reminds me of a fighter like Tony Ferguson. And we've seen that careers of fighters like that who rely on their chin and durability usually don't end too well. Another weakness I want to talk about is that sometimes he is a little bit too wild, and that leads to unnecessary risk. Like Jiri Prochazka, sometimes, especially in his older fights, he can just be like jumping in the range, just like really bouncy and just doing unnecessary movements that it might be unorthodox enough to like throw his opponents off. But at the end of the day, when you're dealing with a lot of technical strikers, a lot of that unnecessary movement can just lead to you getting caught. And that kind of fits into my next weakness. And this is the last weakness that I came up with. But Jiri Prochazka struggles against extremely technical kickboxing styles. Basically Alex Pereira. And Khalil Rountree does show shades of that style in his game, even though he's more on the Muay Thai side of the spectrum when it comes to his striking. Now, let's move on to Jiri Prochazka's opponent, who is going to be Khalil Rountree. Khalil Rountree has a professional MMA record of 14 wins and 6 losses. He's also a big light heavyweight. He's 6'1", so he's not super rangy and tall, but his body is thick and compact. So that's where he can generate so much power. He also has a 76.5-inch reach, so Jiri Prochazka will be going into this matchup with a 3.5-inch reach advantage. Khalil Rountree is a Muay Thai powerhouse, and he has some of the most violent finishes in the UFC. Before his title shot against Alex Pereira, he strung together a streak of some impressive wins that showcased that Muay Thai style, and that style that he relies on has really been carrying him through the light heavyweight division. So now moving on to some strengths of Khalil Rountree. Khalil Rountree, he is a very explosive fighter. He can go from 0 to 100 just like that. And that really was showcased when he fought Jamahal Hill in his last performance, because there were some moments where Khalil Rountree, he was just kickboxing with Jamahal Hill in that fight, just taking it easy, taking it slow and technical, and then all of a sudden he would just explode with a huge overhand and knock down Jamahal Hill. I believe he knocked down Jamahal Hill like 5 times in that fight in total, and it was really just a dominant masterclass of just that Muay Thai style that Khalil Rountree uses so well. And that kind of leads me to his next strength, which is that he has very precise striking with knockout ability. His striking is very precise, is very technical, is very calculated. He picks his shots very well, and when you look at him fight, you can just see the cogs moving in his head, just trying to predict where his opponent is going to go, trying to predict his opponent's next move and land that fight-ending shot. Another strength of Khalil Rountree is that he has devastating low kicks and body work. His kicking game is some of the best in light heavyweight. Of course, he has that oblique kick knockout against Modestas Bukauskas, I believe, and that was one of the most brutal leg kick finishes in UFC history. And Khalil Rountree, he works the body very well as well. His kicking game to the legs and body is very elite. Another strength of Khalil Rountree is that he is very composed in striking exchanges. Khalil, he swings with calculated aggression. He doesn't overswing, he doesn't waste movements. He just is a very powerful striker, and he stays composed, and he dishes out that power very calculated. And like I said, with that Muay Thai style, it makes him like a technician on the feet. His striking is some of the best in light heavyweight. And that kind of leads into my next point, which is that Khalil Rountree, his fight IQ is amazing. Recently, he's been really patient. He's been choosing his shots extremely well, and that's been doing well for him. Now, moving on to Khalil Rountree's weaknesses, is that I would say his grappling defense is a liability, especially against fighters who are really good wrestlers. I'm bringing up this weakness, but let's be honest, in this matchup, Jiri Prochazka, he's not going to be trying to wrestle Khalil Rountree, so this weakness probably won't even come into play in this matchup. This is more just a general observation over the course of his career. As I've been watching his tape, I've been watching all his fights, that's just a general observation that I've came to. But his second weakness, I would say, is that Khalil Rountree, he struggles against wild strikers. If you need an example, just look at his fight against Johnny Walker. Prime Johnny Walker put him out cold with a stiff elbow to the temple. Against wild strikers, Khalil Rountree seems to freeze up. If you tell Khalil Rountree to go out there and have a tit-for-tat striking match, he almost beats everyone in the light heavyweight division except fighters like Alex Pereira, obviously, and Magomed Ankalaev. But when he faces unpredictable creative strikers, he doesn't have that same confidence moving forward. Next weakness that we have to mention is that his cardio has been tested and he fades if he's pushed very hard. But recently in his fights, he's learned how to pace himself to go longer, so he can be a low output striker since he's very explosive and he can create those big moments to win his fights. The next weakness I want to mention is that Khalil Rountree, he's not that proven against top 5 elite competition compared to Jiri Prochazka. Like I mentioned, when we first started the breakdown, he has a record of 14-6. That record is not as experienced as Jiri Prochazka, who has a record of 31-5. Jiri Prochazka, he has over double the amount of wins of Khalil Rountree, and Jiri, he can definitely use that experience to give himself the edge in this matchup. Next, the last weakness I want to talk about is that Khalil Rountree does not display that much head movement. His head stays very stationary on the center line because he embraces that traditional Muay Thai style, which lacks defensive head movement. Now that we're done with the breakdown, it's time that we look at the stylistic clash that will be happening in this matchup. Obviously, both fighters, they thrive on the feet. Jiri Prochazka does grapple a little bit, but in this matchup, he'll most likely be staying on the feet with Khalil Rountree. So this matchup is going to be like Jiri Prochazka's chaos and unpredictability versus Khalil Rountree's disciplined Muay Thai ability. I think Jiri Prochazka's unorthodox angles could throw off the rhythm of Khalil Rountree, but his lack of defense could leave him vulnerable to the precision of Khalil Rountree as well. It's weird because both fighters kind of struggle against each other's style. Khalil Rountree struggles against wilder, more creative strikers, and Jiri Prochazka struggles against clean technical strikers like Khalil Rountree or Alex Pereira. So to win this fight, I think Khalil Rountree, he needs to invest to the body if he wants to have a chance. In Jiri Prochazka's last fight against Jamal Hill hurt him to the body in the second round, and that had Jiri Prochazka hurt. It had him backing up, and Jamal Hill won that round because of that huge body shot against Jiri Prochazka. Also, leg kicks will be a major factor in this matchup as well. Khalil Rountree's leg kicking game could slow down Jiri Prochazka's movement and limit his wild attacks. Obviously, at UFC 300, when Jiri Prochazka fought Alexander Rakic, he got his legs chewed up in the first round, but Jiri Prochazka was just so tough. He gritted through the pain to get that second round TKO. So I think this matchup kind of comes down to, can Jiri Prochazka's pace overwhelm Khalil Rountree, or will Khalil Rountree time that perfect shot and just put out Jiri Prochazka cold? Because in my opinion, Jiri Prochazka is one of those types of fighters where he's not going to go to a decision with you. To get rid of him, you have to put him out cold. He's not going to lose a 48-47 decision. He's going to keep coming at you, and he's going to eventually break you in the later rounds. So to win against someone like Jiri Prochazka, like I said, you have to put him out cold. Alex Pereira is the perfect example. He put Jiri Prochazka out before Jiri can implement that pace and that pressure and eventually break him. So as for my official prediction for this matchup, I think this is a very close fight. But as always, I'm not going to be fence sitting. I like to give you guys a conclusive prediction, and I think I'm going to be picking Jiri Prochazka to win this matchup. I'm not all too confident in this pick. I can definitely see a scenario where Khalil Rountree just knocks him out, but I think the experience against higher level opponents is going to help Jiri Prochazka deal with this technical Muay Thai style. Jiri Prochazka has been in wars with champions, with top contenders, and Khalil Rountree hasn't really fought at that same elite tier. Another reason why I'm picking Jiri Prochazka is that his unpredictability makes him hard to game plan for. And like I said, I think Khalil Rountree tends to struggle when the fight gets a little bit messy and unpredictable. And my last reason why I think Jiri Prochazka will win this fight is because of his volume and pressure. If Jiri Prochazka can survive those early powerful shots of Khalil Rountree, his constant aggression and awkward angles could overwhelm Khalil Rountree. So, as for my official prediction, I think Jiri Prochazka will win by a round 3 TKO after wearing down Khalil Rountree. But as you guys know, I could be a little bit biased in this prediction. Jiri Prochazka, he is my favorite fighter in the UFC, so I could be sleeping on Khalil Rountree in this prediction. I tried to be as objective as possible when I was thinking about this prediction. So I'm picking Jiri Prochazka because I really think that he can win this matchup. But it's safe to say that no matter who wins this matchup, this will be a bloody fight, and the winner will be fighting the winner of Ankalaev versus Pereira for the light heavyweight belt.